Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Live Your Best Life Doing What You Love. I'm Dr. Melissa J. Williams, and if you're new to my channel, welcome, everyone. Remember, this channel is about living your best life doing what you love, and I interview and showcase individuals that are doing just that. So today, I'm so excited to have with me in the studio one of my favorite people, and she's doing amazing things in the education arena. She is the author of, I want to make sure I get it right, The Disruption of Miseducation. It's not the
It,
teachers. It's not
right.
the teachers.
It's not the
Right.
teachers.
Welcome to today's video, Dr. Angela Taylor-Eccles.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with you to have this discussion about living your best life. I can't wait to get into this conversation.
Oh, wow. So thank you so much. So we're going to get in. So I don't know how many of you all in the audience know about Dr. Angela Eccles, but I want her to kind of talk to us and tell her story, like who she is. Give us a little back story of who she is and how she got started with this passion of hers, which is education. So,
Okay. All right. So I spent 32 years in public K-12 education. I was everything from a classroom teacher to a demonstration teacher, which meant that other teachers came into my classroom to watch me teach. And then later on, I became a professional development facilitator. And in that role, I went around to all the kindergarten through fifth grade classes in my district and taught ELA skills to the teachers. And then later on, I became an assistant principal, and then I became a principal. And during that same time, for 19 years, I was a professor in a college, and I taught students working on their master's in the art of teaching. And I also taught students working on their initial teaching certification. So I've been in education for well over 30 years, and I have loved every single minute of it.
okay, I love that. I love that. So you mentioned ELS. I think I know what that is. I think it's English. What is that?
English language arts, as ELA. So
Okay.
I'm sorry, we do acronyms in education. I have to remember everyone is not in education. So English language art skills. And at that time, we were adopting a new reading series. And so I went around and I worked with the teachers on the new reading series. And, I just forgot to also mention that I'm a wife and a mother. And, I'm just enjoying life right now.
I love it. I love it. So I would say, well, I'll ask you, what do you think your superpower is, and when did you discover what it was?
Yeah. So in 2018, God gave me the vision for my book. And my book is called The Disruption of Miseducation. It is not the teachers. And I was starting to feel grieved as an educator because I went into education because I love children and I wanted to make a difference in their lives. And most teachers go into education for that same reason. But I started noticing as I was going around working with teachers that teachers were feeling grieved in the field of education. They were feeling that their autonomy was being stripped. They were being faced with high stakes testing, high stakes teacher evaluations, and people who are not educators were making decisions for teachers. And so I saw teachers have heart attacks on the job, teachers have stress and anxiety. And so God gave me the vision for that book. And in my book, I talk about what happened in public K-12 education, why so many teachers are leaving, and I give school leaders strategies to keep them in. I talk about how high stakes testing caused teachers to focus on testing, and focusing on testing caused teachers a high level of stress because their evaluation is now tied to this test. And it's just a ripple effect. And I also talk about how teachers are not treated as the experts in their field. And then I give school leaders strategies. So my superpower is empowering teachers through their principal and their superintendent. So my target market is superintendents, principals, and school leaders. And I work with school leaders on empowering teachers, bringing teachers to the table. Because if we bring teachers to the table, they're the experts. And we can work together as school leaders to help teachers and empower them to do their job. So my superpower is empowering superintendents, principals, and school leaders, which in turn will empower teachers.
I love it. I love it. So Yeah, what's amazing about, I guess, this channel is that there's so many individuals out there doing amazing things. And, I want to make sure that I showcase the vast number of individuals that are out there living in their divine purpose and waking up every day empowered and fueled, right, to go out and to make a difference. And I love that because that's obviously what you've been doing for the last several years. So I want to go over to the left a little bit and
Okay.
talk about what have you seen in the last, maybe I'm going to say 10 years. I'll go back 10 years. What have you seen that has changed in the classroom? And I know that one of the things you already said is that teachers are being stressed or pressured to do well or to have their students test well. What other things have you seen that has happened in the last decade that has affected our education? Because your book is called The Disruption of
Yes.
Miseducation. So
Yes.
I want to understand the miseducation part.
The miseducation part. So one thing that has happened is teachers are being forced to almost teach to the test. And they're not told to do that, but teachers feel that they have to because their evaluation is being tied to student achievement on the test. So that's miseducation. And then another thing that has happened over the last 10 years is pacing guides. And so some school districts have what's called pacing guides. And so they'll say to the teachers, you're at this month of the year, you need to be teaching this particular skill. And the students may not necessarily be ready for that skill. But according to the pacing guide, in order to get through the entire curriculum, you need to be right here, right now. And so teachers are feeling stressed to have to do that. So that's miseducation, forcing teachers to teach to these pacing guides. And so a few other things is just, like I said, the lack of autonomy.
Mhm.
Teachers are the experts. So let's give them their autonomy to teach to how they feel students should best receive their education. And I'm going to give you an example. This is a good example of autonomy. When I was teaching some years ago, this was before 10 years ago, I taught in a magnet school. And I taught kindergarten. And so most of the students came to my school already reading. And so the curriculum at that time was not at their level, right? And so I went to the principal at that time and I said to him, can I create a reading and math curriculum that meets the needs of my students, but still, hit the standards for the district? And he said to me, yes. And so I created my own math and reading curriculum for those kindergarten students. And when they left kindergarten, those students were well beyond the first grade level. And so he gave me the autonomy. And so what I've noticed is that throughout, 10 years and even beyond, teachers are not given the autonomy. If an administrator walks in their room and they're not using the particular curriculum that the district is using, teachers are sometimes marked down or they're deemed on their evaluation. When the teacher knows their student, right? The teacher is the expert. Most teachers have master's degrees, bachelor's, master's. Some teachers have ex-bachelor's and doctorate degrees. So teachers are with their kids every day. And what that principal did for me, he empowered me. He empowered me because he would say, if I would bring something to him, he would say, okay, go ahead, you can spearhead that. So what I am working with school leaders on is empowering teachers and giving them their power back. And that is what I have noticed. Just give teachers their power back, give them their autonomy, and they will soar.
I love that. I love that. So, Dr. Eccles, I actually taught at the university level, and I actually was a vice president for at AIU for 7 years, and I even saw that in the higher education arena as well. And of course, if it's for profit, if it's a for profit university, the stakeholders or I'm going to say stakeholders because I can't think of the word, but they wanted to make sure that we were earning money and enrollments were very important. So I actually saw a little bit of what you're speaking of back in the day as it related to higher education.
Yeah.
So it's not the teachers. We've identified who it is, right?
Yeah, it's the system.
It's the system.
The system is broken. And until the system is fixed, we're not going to attract teachers. And when I got the idea in 2018 to write this book, I noticed a mass exodus of teachers. Teachers are leaving the profession in droves, and it's not okay because without our teachers, we can't educate our kids, right? But teachers are not leaving because they want to. They're leaving for their own mental, physical, and emotional well-being. And so we need to figure out a way. And in my book, I give school leaders strategies. Let's work on the social, emotional well-being of the teacher first. Because if the teacher is well, you heard the phrase happy wife, happy life. Happy teacher, happy student. So if the teacher is well mentally, physically, and emotionally, then they're available to teach their student. And so I have programs in there where superintendents and principals can embrace their teachers, empower them, have a leadership committee that helps to make decisions and bring it back to their team. Give teachers time off with pay. And I know that, we have a lot of things with the budget, but there's money. Each principal has a budget that they can do some things with. So if you notice that a teacher is stressed, give them some time off. When I was a principal, I would walk around to every classroom every day and say good morning to my teachers. And if I noticed that a teacher just didn't look right, I would double back. And I'll never forget, I double back to a teacher because when I walked in her room, I could just tell she did not look right. And so I walked in, and later on I came back and I said, Cook called her out in the hall and I said, is everything okay? You just don't look like yourself. And she shared something really, really personal with me. And I told her, I said, go home. I will cover your class the rest of the day. So as school leaders, we can't ever forget what it means to be a teacher. And so when I do the workshops, I just talk about walking in their shoes and never forgetting, being on the pulse of your teachers. And sometimes in schools, teachers never see their administrator until it's time for an evaluation. So it's a moment of anxiety, right? But if you build those relationships, authentic relationships with teachers, then you will have a school that will soar. And in my school, we built relationships. We would go and do things like play whirly ball. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's basketball and go-karts.
Okay. Oh,
you build relationships. And I did that in the school with that principal that I talked about before when I was teaching. And so that strategy I infused in my leadership. And I did social things with my teachers so that we can build relationships. It's not just about me coming in and evaluating you. It's a partnership, right? We're partners together to educate the students in our school and in our community. So it's all about that relationship and just making sure that you are on the pulse of how your teachers are feeling.
I love it. I love it. So as you go out, because I know you're consulting, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but as you go out and you're speaking to these administrators, right? What are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing when you're talking to them about the change that has to happen? What are the biggest challenges that you encounter when you're talking to them?
Well, everything in education is surrounded by politics, right? And bureaucracy. And so some of the challenges that I face is that, okay, we have to get this approved by the school board. Or, the school board may not approve this particular part of your program. And one part of my program is changing how we do standardized tests. And really, that's a state, federal, and national thing, But there are some things that school leaders can do. For instance, we have something, a lot of school districts test students in the beginning, middle, and end of the year. And then they have an end of the year final assessment. And so I'm proposing that school districts allow the teachers to create district common assessments. And it could be in lieu of the beginning, middle, and year assessments that some school districts use, because these common assessments will be created by the teachers. And so you will bring in some of your highly effective teachers, get them at the table at each grade level, and create a district common assessment that may be a paper pencil assessment that you give at the beginning, middle, and end of the year, or maybe at the beginning and the middle of the year, or even maybe the middle and end of the year. Bring teachers to the table as the experts and let them decide when they want to give those common assessments. But there will be more buy-in because they know that these assessments were created by the teachers and for their students. And sometimes there's inequity in some of these assessments that are state assessments and federal assessments because they're not equally divided. I mean, they're not created for all students. Let's just be honest. And so some of the verbiage, some of the vocabulary, and we're not dumbing down the assessments. So let's make sure that you understand. I'm not saying that, but we're creating assessments based on standards that students can pass, and the teachers know their students. So that may be a pushback for some school districts because they're like, okay, well, we have to do these common assessments. So let's try it and see. Let's try it and see. So that's one pushback that I've seen.
Now, with that being said, what can parents do, right, to assist the teachers in the classroom with making everything more effective, right? Or can the parents do?
So the parents need to be involved. And a lot of times parents, especially in underserved communities, parents are not involved. And so as the school leader and as the school community, it is our responsibility to reach out to the parents and help them to feel empowered. And sometimes parents are not involved because they had a negative experience as a student. And so teachers and school leaders can bring the parents in and just bring them to the table and make them feel empowered. Tell them, we're looking at assessments. What do you think? And just involve them in making the decisions and let them know that these are some things we're thinking. What do you think? And as parents feel like their opinion is valued, they will start to come to the school more. Invite them in for Parent Appreciation Day. Invite them in for Lunch with Your Child Day. Give awards to parents who are involved. And so as the parents are welcomed into the school, they will feel like, okay, my voice matters. And, it's funny because I have a program in my book called Your Voice Matters. And that's for teachers, but we can also do it for parents. But your voice matters for teachers when principals go over the PA and just acknowledge teachers over the mic or in a newsletter or, let them know that I acknowledge your voice and your opinion matters. So the same for parents. Let them know that their voice matters. I'll never forget. I know one principal and I left Michigan. I'm in Georgia now. And so I've actually been a consultant now for about a year and a half. But there was one principal, she would actually go to the homes. And if a kid was late or missing school, would go to the homes and talk to the parents. And so the parents felt like that principal really cares about my child. So reaching out to the parents, building relationships will help them to come to the table when it comes to making decisions for their kids.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. Back in the day, and I think that even today, we should understand that it does take a village, right? It does take a village. Yeah. And so just wanted to segue for a second to, in your opinion, do you think our children of today are getting smarter, or are they, and this may be a very difficult question to answer, but are they getting smarter as it relates to, I guess, basic general education, or are they being dumbed down as it relates to this miseducation in the classroom?
Okay, that's a loaded question. You know that.
I know.
That's a loaded question. So the miseducation, I won't say it's dumbing kids down. I don't know if I want to use that verbiage.
Right.
But it's not allowing teachers to teach students the way they need to be taught.
Okay.
I would say that if you're rushing through the curriculum, then you're missing out on some things that kids need to learn. So it's frustrating the kids. Or if you're teaching to a test so that kids can pass this test, are they really learning? So I would say that the student of the 21st century or the Gen Zs, they're learning differently.
Yes.
They're learning differently. They need to be hands-on. They need project-based learning. They need to be taught to their learning style. If they're auditory, visual, kinesthetic learning, if they're hands-on, the student of today needs to be taught differently. They need more technology. And now technology can have a negative impact and a positive impact. And, we have kids today who are glued to these iPads, glued to their tablets, And as a result, their social skills are just almost non-existent. Their communication skills are almost non-existent. And so we need to find a way to infuse technology because we are in a technology age, but also not depend on it. So I would say the technology is dumbing kids down. I wouldn't say the teachers are dumbing kids down, but the use of so much technology is dumbing kids down. I propose that we get back to some paper pencil things, where kids have to write out their answers, because when kids are doing so much texting and they're doing so many things in technology, when it comes time to write a paper, they're using emojis and they're using, incorrect English. And so we need to get back to the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, speaking, listening, viewing, communication, allowing kids to just have conversations, getting back to debates, getting back to, some of the basics of education. There are some great things out there, but we're forgetting some of the basics of education, of just, rote memorization has always been in the past, looked frowned upon. But when I was in school, I had to rote memorize my multiplication facts. I had to rote memorize my addition facts. And as a result, I know them. I knew them like the back of my hand. So there are some things that have been taken out of education that just needs to be put back in. And until we get our teachers to the table, who are the experts, we're going to continue to have miseducation of our students.
I want to stay right there for just a second, because AI is taking over, or has taken over, right? And so because I know it will have an effect in education.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what effect do you think that AI will have in the education system?
So it's already beginning to have an effect. A lot of the teachers are using it, allowing kids to search AI to research their papers. And, even I use it when I write my contracts, but I'm finding that, AI is helping me to write my contracts more effectively. But at the same time, if I was to write it myself, it would take a lot longer. And, so there are some positive things to AI, and AI is here to stay. It's here to stay. But on the same token, I still feel like it's dumbing our kids down to a certain extent, because all they have to do is look on AI and it gives them the answer. So it's causing our kids not to think. So as an educator and in the schools, I encourage teachers to use AI, but at the same time, have kids figure out some answers on their own. If they're writing a paper, have them write their paper first and then put their paper in AI and have AI tweak and perfect their paper. Now they're using their own knowledge and skills as opposed to just depending on AI. So AI will make it better, but let's allow our kids to do their own thinking first. Do your own thinking first, put it in AI, let AI perfect it, and then you have the best of both worlds. You have the AI technology, but you also are using your own thinking and listening and viewing skills.
Oh, I love that. I love that. My favorite part, this has been very interesting and very educational for me, because like I said, I've actually been out of the classroom for several years. But you know that one of my loves is government contracting, right?
Yeah.
And so I know that you mentioned that you are a consultant and you've been doing consulting for over, I guess, maybe a year to 2 years. So I want to talk to you about, and I know part of the answer already, your experience with government contracting, because of course I'm telling everyone, if they're wanting to grow and scale their business, that government contracting is one of those vehicles that I know for sure will allow them to be able to do just that. So talk to me about your experience as a consultant and your experience with government contracting.
Okay, so I've had one contract I had with a school district. It was a small government contract, but it was a contract. So let me just be clear. I want to make sure I understand. Our school district request for proposals, government contracts.
Yes, it's going to be a local or a state contract. Yes.
Okay. So the first one that I got was a small contract, but I loved it because I was able to present my proposal. And I wrote the proposal after meeting with the school district, based on their needs. And at that time, their need was they wanted to bring someone in who was knowledgeable about assessments. And assessments are one of the reasons teachers are leaving. And so I created a balanced assessment program that will give teachers power and ownership of the assessments that they give in their classroom. And I was really, really excited to be awarded that contract. And I worked with 15 teachers in a new teacher academy. And I taught them the value of creating balanced assessments. A balanced assessment is starting with a pre-assessment, and then you go to what's called a formative or benchmark assessment. A formative assessment are the little checkpoints along the way. You know how your teachers, and when you were in school, they would give you an assignment and then they would check it real quick. That's a formative assessment. Or they would give you a quick pop quiz. That's a formative assessment. And then you have a summative assessment, which is the end of the year or end of the unit assessment. And so what I did was I showed them how to create those assessments and the importance of the formative assessment. The formative assessment is the most important assessment you will ever give your students, because that will inform your instruction and drive your instruction. So say, for instance, I give a lesson on multiplication, and I noticed that 1/3 of my students got it all right. The next 1/3 just got a little bit wrong. And the third 1/3 didn't get any of it right. So what I would do, I would use that information to inform my instruction the next day. I would put my students in 3 groups. Okay, this group really understood, so let me take them to the next level. This group kind of got it, but they missed a little something. So let me work with that group to move them along. And this group didn't get it at all. So let me reteach it in a different way. Right. So that government contract helped to empower those teachers, because when I finished teaching them about a balanced assessment, then they worked in groups to create balanced assessments for their students, which meant that now they're empowered and the school leaders allow them to use those balanced assessments, right? And so then I worked with you a little bit on another government contract, a request for a proposal. And this one was for school leaders. Now, let me just tell you, you have to keep applying for contracts as an entrepreneur. And, you can't just put all your eggs into one basket. And because you're not going to get every contract that you apply for. And you may put your heart and soul into this contract, which it's the one that I worked with you on. I did not get that one, but it was a great request for proposal. So,
it was wonderful. That was one of the best that I've seen. And I told you that.
Yes. So, you have to keep applying. And I'm not going to lie. When I didn't get it, it kind of knocked me off my rocker for a minute, and I had to just sit back and just say, okay, I didn't get that one. I have to just keep applying. And, someone else told me, just keep applying. A lot of people don't get the contracts because they don't apply. Sometimes it may be 1, 2, or 3 people who applied. And because of the amount of work involved, people don't apply, but you just have to keep applying. And what is for you is for you. I truly believe that what's for me is for me. I know that God had me step out of K-12 education, the 32 years, to impact education in a different way on a broader scale. I know that the book that he gave me is to impact education on a broader scale. So, you may get more no's than yeses in the beginning, but I'm saying to entrepreneurs, just keep going. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. Most of us who are entrepreneurs have been in corporate America or K-12 education. You're used to a regular schedule. You're used to a regular paycheck every 2 weeks, but you may get a government contract that covers your whole salary in a month. So we just have to keep going, keep stay in the fight, because what God has for us is for us. And we have to just stick to what God has given us to do.
I love it. I love it. So, today is my first time knowing that you didn't win that one.
Oh, I thought I told you.
You didn't tell me. You didn't tell me.
I thought I told you. Yes.
Nope. If you did, I didn't remember you telling me. But what I tell my students is that it's okay that you didn't win, because it allows you to get better, right?
Yeah.
Because yours was a request for proposal, right? Not a request for quote. Possibly the reason that you didn't win it could have been the the cost of the proposal or the price
Yeah.
of the proposal. But what it does, it allows you to do an AAR, an after action review, to be able to see what you did well, what you need to improve on. And it also allows you to go out and you can do a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request to get information or gather information about the winning proposal. How much was it? What kind of team members or experts were on that proposal, who won it, and it allows you to get better. So it's not in vain that you didn't win it, because like I said, that proposal that you wrote, it was amazing. It was
Right.
totally on point. But briefly, do you recall what the amount of the winning proposal for this one was? Did they announce that?
No, you know what? I did not go back and look to see what the winning amount was. So I need to do that.
Right. We always want to know who won it. Did you lose it by 10,000? Did you lose it by 100,000? And you would like to even see it, because possibly, again, you can take something that maybe you didn't include in your proposal and you can incorporate it in the next proposal, because I know you're going to be going after contracts and you're going to be winning millions and millions of dollars, because what
I
you
received
do,
it.
yes, what you do is amazing. And like I said, you're living your life doing what you love. And I can tell that when I
Yeah.
talk to you about it, this is your passion. This, you care about it. You care about the education system. You care about the teachers. You care about the students. And we
Yeah.
need, of course, more people like you that care about our babies, right? Because
Yes. It's
they're our
all,
future.
yeah. It's all about the babies at the end of the day. It is all about the babies. I can't go anywhere and see kids and not just have my heart is full when I see kids.
Yes.
And so, and then it's all about the teachers as well, because I was a teacher for so many years, and to see my teachers hurting hurts me.
Right.
So it's all about the teachers, who in turn impacts our students.
Right. That is crazy. Being military, like I've traveled to Asian American countries, and certainly their teachers are held to a very high esteem, and teachers and doctors.
Yeah.
But here in the US, we have to get to that place where we honor and we support our teachers. And you're saying, just like I'm in the nursing facility and nurses are leaving the profession, partly because of
Yeah.
COVID, and then also partly because the baby boomers are retiring. But it's very important that we figure out, quickly, how to get our teachers back, interested in the profession of teaching, and how
Yeah.
we support them. And what
Yeah.
you're doing is amazing.
When I first started teaching, I don't mean to cut you off,
No,
but
you're fine. You're fine.
I'm dating myself now, but it was in the 80s. And whenever I would introduce myself as a teacher, there was immediate approval and respect. I had my chest poked out,
Yes.
but somewhere along the way, things shifted.
Right.
And then later on, when I would introduce myself as a teacher, people would say, "Well, I'm sorry." Oh, wow, you're a teacher. So, the shift happened, right after the 80s, things just started to shift. And so we need to get that back. And so, right now there is a large homeschool movement. A lot of parents are teaching their kids at home, and it's a lot of things with the student behavior, the gun, the shooting in schools. It's a lot, and so that's getting back to what I said. It's the system that's broken. And we have to work on the system, or we're going to continue to lose our kids. We're going to continue to lose our parents. And, the per pupil money is being divided between public, private, charter schools, which is impacting public K-12 education in a major way. When I was in school, it was mostly public schools. It was some private schools, not many charter schools. But the per pupil money now is being divided, which impacts what public education can spend on educating our kids. And so it's just a lot of it is a ripple effect. And until we start addressing the system, we're going to have this problem.
Yeah. I actually homeschooled my 4 kids, so I can relate to that as well. But the reason that I chose to homeschool my children is because I was really concerned with them having critical thinking skills, right?
Yeah.
And then I too understood that I had 4 kids, and they were, I had 2 of them that were visual learners, one was auditory, and one was kinesthetic. I understood as their mom that
Yes.
they learn different, right? And
Yeah.
because of that, I wanted to make sure that I allowed them to, I guess, to grow and be who they were born to be.
Mhm.
And I also introduced to them, I guess, ideas and things that fed to their genuine, innate being, right? And so I have amazing kids, but they did attend public school and private school as well. But later I did, homeschool my kids. So that's amazing. That's amazing.
So what ages were they when you homeschooled them?
Oh my goodness. Maybe maybe 10, 12, and then the babies, I homeschooled them. Maybe they all went back to school, maybe when they were maybe 15. And then I know
Okay.
Mallory, she went to college at 16. She was
Oh, wow.
amazing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's important that I know that parents are involved in their education because of course we as parents, we know our children. We
Yeah.
know we know what drives them, right? And like I said, you're doing amazing work, amazing work. So in closing,
Let me go back to that real quick, what you were saying. So it's called differentiating instruction. So in a school, in a classroom, teachers must differentiate instruction to meet the needs of their students. I was DI, that's differentiated instruction, a DI demonstration teacher for the district. And so teachers came into my classroom to watch me teach. And what I did was I looked at kids' learning style and I based my lessons based on their learning style. So you may walk in my classroom and not know where the teacher is because there's a group over here, there's a group over there, there's a group over here. And, your kinesthetic learners are doing something hands-on. Your auditory learners may be creating a song. Your visual learners may be doing some artwork, but teachers must learn to differentiate instruction, especially in this day and age, with our Gen Zs and how they're learning differently. And like you said, you as a parent were able to acknowledge that. But as teachers, school leaders must be the instructional leader and make sure their teachers know how to differentiate the instruction. And it takes some training and some learning, but once you have it, you have it. So, I just wanted to piggyback on what you said about differentiating the learning for your students in your homeschool environment.
I love that. So now, as teachers are being developed, are they being taught how to do that, DI?
Some school districts are. The district that I taught in Michigan was a DI district. And so what we did was I worked with the superintendent and we went around and we taught at conferences, other school districts how to do it. And so it is something that some school districts are doing, but all school districts really need to have differentiated instruction in their classroom.
I love that. I love that. So that's new. I didn't really know about it or know the title to it. I just knew it. I was doing it. I was doing it. So this has been truly, truly amazing. Before we leave, I want you to just think about some closing remarks that you would have and want to give to our viewers. Like, what is it that you want them to leave this this I'm gonna get it right. What is it that you want to leave them with that will be able to motivate them to do amazing things and to assist you in this movement, be it whether they're an administrator in the education system, or whether they're a teacher, a parent, or even a child, or even a child that may be watching?
Okay, so 2 parts. The first part is the title of this channel is Living Your Best Life Doing What You Love to Do. So I would encourage anyone on here to stay true to yourself and stay true to what God has given you to do. I'm going to give an example. When I was 5 years old, I knew I wanted to be a teacher.
Oh, wow.
Whenever I played school with my friends, I was the teacher. All the way through elementary school, I played school. I was the teacher. When I was 16 years old, I was a member of an active youth group at my church. And that's what my role was.
Teacher.
the teacher. So I would give my youth group members a scripture on Friday. The next Friday, if they got it right, they would get an A. When I was 19 years old, I taught in a private Christian school. I taught third grade in the morning and I went to college at night. When I graduated from college, I got my first job in the public school system, and I felt like I could do somersaults and flips because I achieved my dream job of becoming a teacher. I said all that to say, a lot of times we knew as a kid what we wanted to do, but maybe we got caught up in corporate America, or maybe we got caught up in one job after another job after another job. And so we kind of lost sight of the gift that God has given us. And God says our gifts will make room for us, right? So I would encourage you to stick to whatever you know God has given you to do. And entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. So if you decide to become an entrepreneur, maybe you'll do it while you're still working. Or like me, I left K-12 and I started my business. But surround yourself with other entrepreneurs. Surround yourself with like-minded people. And you may have some naysayers, who say, oh, no, you can't do that. So don't listen to the naysayers. Surround yourself with people who will motivate you. Find a coach. I have 3 coaches, and I have a coach who said, to me, when I first started my business, I suffer from what is called imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is when you kind of question, am I qualified to do this? And a lot of entrepreneurs suffer imposter syndrome. And I was a teacher, I was a principal, I was a college professor for many years, but I was never an educational consultant. I was never out there on my own. I was always out there under the umbrella of a school district, under the umbrella of a superintendent. And so when I left, I suffered imposter syndrome. And one of my coaches said to me, she said, check your receipts. And I'm like, what does that mean? Check your receipts. What do you have? You have multiple degrees. You have 32 years in public K-12 education. You spoke on many stages across the country. So as I started to talk to myself, the imposter syndrome started to leave. And so the second part of your question is, how can people help me? If you know any superintendents, principals, and school leaders who are looking for an educational consultant to come in, recommend me. I am a trained speaker. I'm a motivational speaker. I do keynote speaking. I do workshops, professional development, and training. And so they can find me on drangela.taylor-eccles.com. That's my website. On Instagram, Dr. Angela Taylor-Eccles. On Facebook and LinkedIn, Dr. Angela Taylor-Eccles. And on YouTube, Dr. Angela Taylor-Eccles. So that's how your audience can help me, is to get the word out. My book is The Disruption of Miseducation. It is not the teachers.
Ooh, I love it. And I love you. You are amazing. You are amazing and doing amazing work. So guys, if you found this video helpful, or you know what, if you're new to our channel, consider subscribing, clicking on the like. All of the information on how you can get in contact with Dr. Angela Taylor-Eccles is going to be in the footnotes. Purchase her book, guys. Subscribe to her channel. Join our Facebook group, We Are DBE, where, like Angela said, you will be surrounded by like-minded individuals that are doing the same thing, living their best life, doing what they love.
Yes.
Life doing what they love. All right, guys. So thank you so much. With that being said, thank you, Dr. Taylor.
You're welcome. And I forgot to say, my book is on Amazon.
Amazon, go there. Is it on Shopify too?
It's on Amazon and Lulu.
Amazon and Lulu.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, guys. As always, live your best life doing what you love. Stay healthy and happy. God bless.
Yes.